What's going on, peeps? If you're listening to this the same week it was published, then I'm still in Bali. But I've recorded this before I went to Bali, so I knew that you'd have, you get your Thursday, your weekly fix. Today, this podcast is brought to you by Apparel. What? Who are they? I hear you cry. And it's not O-M, by the way, it's O-H-M-M-E. Yeah, how's that? This is a men's clothing brand, which are very close to my heart. Quite literally, I'm wearing the t-shirt right now. And they provide yoga clothing for men that is kind to the environment by using sustainable recycled fabrics. I mean, even when you get their packaging through the post, because they send me gifts, which is very nice of them, it's all recycled paper. Which is so important because our impact on our environment matters. Their fabrics all eco-certified. They're making sure they're doing their bit for the environment. If you want to do your bit and also get yourself some garms and look good, you just go to ohmme.com/#TYLP to get 15% discount off your full range of eco-active wear. Make sure you use the promo code Kevin, that's Kevin, to get you 15% off your garms. Next, we have 108 Asana Yoga Sequencing Cards by Yogaroo. These are physical cards that you can take anywhere with you, making your practice accessible at home, when you're traveling, or when you're building your class plan. They've got all the info that you need, everything from the alignment cues, the level guides, the anatomy coding, the English to Sanskrit translations as well. If you want to get yourself a pack and if you would like to give someone a lovely gift, then go to yogaroo.ie, that's yoga, R-U.ie. Choose the pack first, then click checkout and then put in the promo code Kevin for 10% off your card. So that's promo code Kevin for 10% off. Lastly, small changes. My little local Whole Foods store doing great things for the environment, for the community, and for ourselves. We've got to look after ourselves. So I recommend you go down to Small Changes in Drumcondra here in Dublin 9, or if you're listening after the summer 2019, then perhaps they've opened their shop in Glasnevin. Go in there. Don't bother with your plastic. You don't need it. They'll give you a cardboard box to put all your groceries into, and you can bring your refillable cup, get 50% off your juice or smoothie. If you'd like more information about them, simply go to smallchanges.ie. No promo code, no commission. Just go down there, support local, buy organic, look after yourself, look after the planet. Okay, right. Our guest today. My guest, your guest, Sarah Grogan. Sarah's been on this podcast. It's her third time on it now. I think that's a record. The only person to be on the podcast 3 times. So well done, Sarah. I don't know what you win exactly, but maybe we do some sort of loyalty card. So Sarah Grogan is a teacher based in London, England, as opposed to London anywhere else. And she came over to Dublin here to do her workshops, Rocket, Mandala Yoga, and with backbending. And it's great when you have someone on the podcast a few times, a repeat guest, because you get more and more comfortable with them. And Sarah, the main thing with Sarah, to be real, is that when she first started, when I first got to know her for Instagram, she was quite shy with posting Instagram stories, and you could tell she was trying to get the hang of it. And now she's bossing it, she's dominating it, and that's just great to see. I love that the fact that someone can have resistance to something, get over it, and then get comfortable in their own skin. She's also got, this sounds like something you don't know, but a really lovely voice. So she's really enjoyable to listen to, and she's doing some exciting things with the Yogi Network as well, which is like a trade union for yoga. But I won't spoil the surprise. Yes, next up we'll have our music. This is our new format, and then there'll be Sarah. Enjoy. Get the sound of pouring tea. Yeah, there's no comparison between bag tea and loose leaf tea.
It's true.
This is from Wall & Co.
I went to Bread 41 this morning for breakfast. Have you been?
No.
Best bread, so good. It's over by Pier Street.
Bread.
Bread.
Cheers, by the way.
Cheers. Good to see you again, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Where's Bread 41?
Near Pearse Street. It's funny, actually, when I was driving around Dublin last night with my parents, I realised how long I've been gone, because like things look familiar, but I don't know Dublin that well anymore. Like things change. Like there's obviously so much construction, and like, you know, I was in UCD for what, and living around that area for like 6 years in total, and I was like going down roads. I was like, what's the name of this road again? Where like I used to live just around the corner. So it was just interesting, because I guess I have been gone for ages now. It's like 8.5 years.
Jesus. Well, you see loads of cranes up all the time, and I actually just read an article this morning in the paper that a lot of people returning from Australia can't afford to come back.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll come back?
I toyed with the idea recently more than I've ever toyed with the idea before, actually. I think because I feel like Dublin is on my doorstep in a way, like it's so easy to get home, that I kind of have the best of both worlds, because I love London, I love my life in London, and it's great that I can come home. But lately I felt maybe more that urge to kind of think about it, and it won't be anytime soon, but I can never rule it out. Yeah, I guess where I've always struggled actually is the weather. And I know that you might feel like London's not that much better. It is a little bit better, but it's not that much better.
Oh yeah.
But what I had at the start of this year was 2019 has been really good to me so far. The fact that I went and I did my retreat in Thailand, so I was gone for 2 weeks, got some, you know, winter sun, and then I was back for 2 weeks, and I went and did another training in India. And then I've been back, I think, about 3 weeks now. It kind of made me realize that in my life as a yoga teacher, I have the ability to do stuff like that, and the freedom to do stuff like that, which means, like, because I do love living in this part of the world. And previously, especially when I was in finance, I was like, oh my God, I'd love to just like go live in Asia where it's like sunny all the time. I've realized I don't need to do that, because I get that opportunity, and I can create that opportunity for me to get away when I need to, when I feel like I need some sun, and do retreats and that kind of thing.
I suppose the only thing that the only drawback of that is that you're having to get cover for classes.
Yeah, it's hard.
And people, it's nice to see the same people every week, isn't it?
Yeah.
In your public classes. But as you said, that is when you have people to cover, or is it when you have people to cover your classes that you like and trust, that maybe have a similar style to you.
Yeah.
Then it makes that transition a lot smoother. When I actually spoke to you last, it was like November last year, I think, episode 35, and you were about to do your first retreat in
Thailand.
Thailand. So how did that go?
Like, it went amazingly well. Like, I was so chuffed with how it went, because I put so much time, effort, love into kind of creating it. And then like the people that we had were just amazing. Like, it sold out in the end, which is obviously kind of, you know, ideal. But the people who came were incredible. They built amazing bonds with each other as well. And it was just really beautiful to hold space so people could not necessarily, because it's not about you. And that's what I really realized. It's about them having an amazing experience, and you kind of creating that space for them to do so. So yeah, everyone I think had a great time. And I've kind of provisionally put out feelers for, so if the date is booked for next year, and I think a lot of people who came this year are going to come again next year.
Same location?
Yeah, same location, pretty much the same week next year, because it is beautiful. And it's a great escape for the winter as well, just because we didn't see rain a single time.
Oh my God. What was it, in Koh Samui?
It was in Koh Samui, yeah. So now I've got a bunch more retreats coming up this summer. So I've got one in June, and that one's almost sold out. I only have like 3 spots left. And what's really nice...
The Pyrenees?
It's in the Pyrenees, yeah.
No big deal.
And it's really nice. I have a bunch of Irish people coming.
Where is the Pyrenees? I know that it sounds... I'm going to guess. All right, let me just guess. Okay, Pyrenees, it sounds... kind of French.
It is French.
Okay, and it's in the south of France.
South of France.
Is it? Okay, yeah. Come on then. That's all I got. So
to be honest with you, I didn't actually know much about that area either, and that's why like I'll always go scout out a retreat venue before I do it there. So it's gorgeous. This one's really rural. It's quite a different vibe to Thailand, because Thailand was a bit more like luxury vibes, where this one's more kind of rustic, but the place is beautiful. There's like 11 acres of land. We're right beside a river. And the funny thing about this guy was, so I called him up and I was like, I love your place, I love the land, I love everything about it, but I just can't see from the pictures if there's anywhere to do yoga. So he was like, we spoke on the phone, and he was like, what about here? I was like, no, that won't suit, because it was grass or the ground was uneven or whatever. So I was like, I'm really sorry, I don't think it's going to work. And then he emailed me like a really comprehensive email about 2 days later. And he said, I was thinking about this, and I'm going to build you a yoga decking. So he asked me the dimensions of a yoga mat. He asked me how many people, and I was like, well, given your accommodation sleeps this many people, this is what you should cater for. So he decided to invest in building a yoga decking. So I went to see that like 2 weeks ago, and it's gorgeous. It's down by the river, like it's kind of shaded by trees and in the woods. It's really beautiful.
Custom built yoga decking.
Yeah, because I guess it's smart from his perspective. It means he can do future retreats, and also he can host weddings there. So he actually has a wedding there a few weeks after my retreat.
Yeah, it does give you more options. How did you get in touch with him?
So what I've done is actually found places through Airbnb. I'm not sure if I should say this in a recorded line, but then I try and find because usually places have their own website separately, so then I try and find the website.
Yeah.
And then, because the thing is, you can't communicate properly via Airbnb, and when you're hosting a retreat, it's not the same as just going away for a week with your mates. Like you really have to think about all of the detail. Like you just can't kind of leave any stone unturned.
No.
So you need to have conversations with them, and you can only do that if you contact them. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I did the same. I went onto a middleman website, or middle person website, and it has a list of retreat centres in Ibiza, actually.
Yeah.
We're looking at ones that I'm going to Ibiza for a stag in
Amazing.
August. And I thought, okay, I researched. And so I found this hosting company that has a list of them. And then what I noticed is when you try to contact them directly, every retreat center has like a holding page, and it's all the same. So obviously they realized that people were
sometimes they give them fake names and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's so general, they just have the town name without. But I think you need to do that, because look at what's happened for you now. You've got someone who you can talk to directly, and you can and he's
build me a decking.
Build a decking, exactly. So the Pyrenees is happening in summer. This summer.
So Pyrenees is in June, and then I'm working with another retreats company called Akasha to do one in Norway in July, August. And I'm teaming up with a friend, Leo, who is an acro guy. So we're doing that together. And then I'm doing one in September with one of my best friends, also in France, but in a different place in France. So having 3 coming up was a little bit scary, but they seem to be selling well. So
I'm doing my first one, which is sold out in September.
Amazing, congrats.
Thank you, this year. So with Elisa Luby, and what's the biggest challenge? Because I'm thinking about all the great stuff and how fun it would be going hiking with people. But what would you say is in terms of I should be given a heads up about?
It's very energy consuming. Like it's amazing and it's beautiful, but it's hard work when you're there, and you're like kind of running on adrenaline a little bit throughout the week, because you're hosting a holiday for people, and therefore they kind of want to hand over all responsibility to you, all decision making to you. So you get questions left, right and centre. You have to deal with kind of any issues or anything that people have, but also you have to hold space, and it can be, and people also, a lot of things can come up for people on retreats. You can make it completely asana focused and very physical, or if you want to delve deeper into more kind of the philosophical, spiritual, that can be the thing that brings up things for people, because you don't know why they're there, like what's their reason for being there. So you have to be prepared kind of for whatever comes up. But yeah, you're on from like the second you wake up in the morning until like the last person goes to bed. You know, you're switched on. So what you also have to remember is, like, I think in my head beforehand I was like, you know, a lot of the people who came to Thailand, they're becoming friends now because they come to my class so much and they're such regulars. And it's like, oh, this is gonna be amazing. We can just like hang out by the pool. And there is a bit of that, but at the same time, you need to almost not do that too much, because again, it's not about you having a great time. It's about them having a great time. And you can give the best version of yourself only if you protect your energy for a few hours of the day and just take a step back and just kind of rest or nap if you need to, that kind of thing.
That is to me, that is a fascinating dynamic. How you, because as you just touched on it there. So, for example, when you're in a class and you're the teacher, how you have to have not a barrier. That's the wrong word. Not a barrier. What the word I'm looking for? Not border. Maybe barrier is the right word. Basically, that to say like, not going to tell you about the stuff that's not going well for me today.
Yeah.
I'm going to listen to you speak,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be friendly. I like you as a person. Let's say the person on your retreat or in your class, but I can't. I shouldn't be confiding in you because.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be here to serve you,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, service, it really is that word of service, isn't it? And I'm interested because I'm going to be teaching on the teacher training and yoga hub in September as well.
Again,
And
congratulations.
thanks a lot. And I've been in touch with a couple of people who have booked on that. And when I see them now, I'm like, do I give them a hug? Am I still like, how pally am I with them? Because there may be times where you have to say, okay, guys, look, be quiet. This is what we're doing now. And it's something just to be aware of. I think that, I don't know. I don't know how to like navigate that.
I think there's no right or wrong.
Right.
Because some of my students, like, they're still my students, I guess, but they're kind of just become friends. And like, I've done, I guess, across that barrier where I do give them a hug when I see them. And then some of them are even starting to hang out socially because like they're the same age as me. We have similar interests. And I think that's okay. It's just, you still have to protect your energy. And so I guess it kind of is a case by case basis. It's difficult.
It's funny you say about hanging out as well, because I have had people contact me who go to my class and say, do you want to go for a coffee?
Yeah.
I'd like to talk to you, talk to you. And I've been reluctant. I've asked my girlfriend, what does she think, especially when it's a woman.
Yeah.
You know, a woman wants to go for coffee with me.
Yeah. It's trickier for guys, I reckon.
It's trickier. So I think to myself, right, if it was a guy, would I go? Yes, I would.
Yeah.
So I should go. It doesn't matter what gender they are. And I found that I can be myself. And in fact, these are they are your friends.
Yeah.
When you're in that environment.
Yeah.
But then when you're in the classroom, in the retreat, whatever, then you're on.
So it's quite funny actually.
Mode.
The girls laughed a little bit because I think because they feel like we're friends now, sometimes they can be a bit chatty in class, and it's a bit like a student-teacher relationship. But I've no problem being like literally, shh. And then they find it funny and they don't mind. And we've actually discussed it, how they understand that I have to be almost strict in that environment because it's not fair on everybody else if they kind of are chatting or laughing or doing their thing or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but again, it's just communication, isn't it? They don't mind and they understand it. But what I think is ultimately everyone is looking for is community. So like, and if you do try and breed community and create community amongst your classes, amongst your students, people will cross that line from being just student into friend. So I started a thing at the start of the year, a Saturday brunch club. So I teach a 90-minute rocket class every Saturday morning at 10:30. And at the end of class, I kind of just say to everybody, you know, if you're around, if you're free, come with us. Just there's an amazing place just across the street, and I have a weekly booking there for 12:15. And like the first week I did it, of a 24-person class, we had 18 people come to brunch.
Wow.
Yeah, and like it's never been less than kind of 12 or 13 people, which is amazing. And yeah, it's really, really nice just to see that grow and new faces kind of come, and people just want to get to know each other. And I found that retreats are an amazing way of building community, but not everybody can afford or has the time to go on retreats. So then this is another way of doing it.
Yeah.
And what I found is kind of going back to what you said at the start about like getting classes covered. That was something I was really anxious about when I started teaching, but actually over time, and it's still something I'm very aware of, that I don't want to do it too much. But I feel like as long as you are building kind of continuity and community, it's okay if you do disappear for 2 weeks. They know that you're coming back, and it's just, again, like it's up on my Instagram. I post my schedule every week. I let them know that I'm going, and yeah, as long as it's hopefully someone who kind of teaches in a similar way to you, who's covering, then it tends to be okay.
Yeah, as you said, continuity is the key, isn't it? So it's not just in person where you're communicating. You are communicating through Instagram, through this podcast, for example.
For sure.
I mean, so I had an interview. I was interviewed recently by the Heliosphere Project. They're started by they're basically this project. It doesn't really matter what they're doing, but it's to do with like social media in Trinity College and artificial intelligence, and the ones that asked me about my social media and stuff, and how I build community in social media. And I was listening back to the video, and I actually said these words. I said, "I have no friends." I said that, right? And then as soon as I said that, my sister said to me, "Why did you say that? Why did you say you'd have no friends?" And it's because we kind of have to define what a friend is first. So I don't know, maybe you can relate to this, but as you get older, you don't know as many people in your immediate circle. So when you grow up, in school you got your little gang.
Yeah.
Same at university, at work you've got your girls you sit next to, you go for lunch and coffee with, and then when you become a yoga teacher, you're pretty much on your own.
Yeah.
But the strange thing is that my mates. So when I go on this stag do,
Yeah.
to Ibiza, last time I was in Ibiza, I mean, I was like the party animal.
Yeah,
I was the one leading that party train, and stayed up for like 3 days in a row, and just like went to all the big clubs. And now I don't drink.
Yeah.
I don't do any drugs. I'm not into football.
Yeah.
So although I've known these people for 20 years of my life, I have less and less in common with them because my life has changed so much.
Yeah.
But Sarah, I have 1,000 people listen to this podcast every week.
Yeah. It's such
and
an interesting dynamic, isn't it?
And I, how I'm talking to you now, I'm not filtered at all. Everything I'm saying is like what I would say as if no one was listening.
Yeah, of course.
So if you can picture 1,000 people sitting here, listening to what we're saying. So 1,000 people every week know me quite intimately. So are they my friends? Like it's strange, isn't it?
It's so weird, and sometimes like you just see numbers, and then you kind of almost, you're like, oh my god, there is like behind every number that you see on the screen, like there's a person.
Yeah.
Getting to know you and feeling like they know you, and it is interesting. But I hear you in terms of like, you know, friendships changing, and as you become a yoga teacher, because I think your priorities change, and when you do have less things in common, like my friendship group has completely changed. But
also as well, because when you get into a relationship, you spend so much time with each other that you don't I'm just going to use your friends. You don't use your friends
see
much.
them as much. Yeah,
exactly. Speaking of the other half, how comes he's not here?
He decided not to come this time.
Okay, all right, fair enough. And when your Rocket workshop is practically sold out.
Yeah, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
Because it's an anniversary of a year.
Of course,
of becoming. So I came for the first time April last year, and that was actually the day before I finished my full-time job in finance. I had to go in, I was here on the Sunday, I had to go in on the Monday. So it's been a year of teaching, kind of not full-time, but like almost full-time.
Right.
So I went full-time for a while, and now I do 2 days a week in a fintech company. So that's, I'm not sure if we spoke about this.
No, we didn't.
So basically what happened was I obviously quit my job, did like 9 months notice period, which was intense and awful. Finished on the 30th of April last year, so the day after I was here, and did full-time yoga teaching in London for like a month, then headed off to Thailand, did my 300 hours with Bryce and Yoga Beyond. That was kind of perfectly timed, just because I knew I'd need to get away and just like chill out after the 9 months notice period. And then came back and was teaching full-time for a couple of months, but was approached by my old boss, who had set up this startup in a kind of fintech, so financial technology, but it's kind of related to what I used to do. And he was like, we need someone 2 days a week. You'd be perfect for the role. I know you don't want to do anything 5 days a week because you want to be focused on yoga, but I just thought maybe like financially this might make sense for you, and I think you'd be really good at it. So it wasn't a no-brainer for me, because I was like, oh god, I haven't done full-time yoga teaching for long enough. But then I was like, okay, just see how it goes, and you don't have to stick with it. So I started that, I think it was like in October last year, and initially it was just kind of content writing. So I'd just write a newsletter, and I can choose my hours, so it's amazing. Like I email them on a Sunday. I'm like, you're going to see me, you know, these hours. I'm going to work from home these hours. I can work remotely if I need to. Because what my old boss said, he was like, you can do this from Thailand, you can do this from India, I don't care. But he's like, I think you'd be good at it. So started doing that, and like, you know, some weeks it's amazing, some weeks I'm like, oh, I just want to be doing yoga full time. But what I've found over time, and over kind of doing it for the past few months, is it does help a lot financially, but also it's nice to have a bit of a balance as well, but financially more so than anything, because what I realized is to be a full-time yoga teacher in London, especially at the beginning, like you have to teach over 20 classes a week to kind of make it work, and that for me just was too much. It's too energy consuming. And actually just through the whole process of, you know, teaching full-time and now teaching kind of part-time, And I still teach a lot. So I teach like 9, 10 classes a week. And I keep talking about reducing that, but I just love it so much. So I don't. And I might go down to about 7 at some point. But for now, I'm kind of happy with my kind of 9, 10 plus my kind of like 16 hours a week in the fintech. But they're flexible, so it's nice. But what it has inspired me to do, and actually a project that I'm working on the side, is to create kind of a network or association for yoga teachers. So me and my friend Rachel, who's also a yoga teacher, she's also actually ex kind of city as well, we have created this thing called the Yogi Network, and it's still really early doors. We just kind of launched the Instagram last week, and we're in the process of building the platform and kind of getting it going, so hopefully you'll hear more about it soon. But we want to basically empower people, because what I've really noticed is people aren't afraid to negotiate, like yoga teachers. So they feel blessed and they feel lucky if a studio gives them a class, to the point that they won't say, hang on a second, that rate isn't very good. You know, some studios are only like paying 20, 25 quid a class, and like it's just not enough to really live. So what we've done is we sent out a survey to a bunch of our friends who are yoga teachers. I might send it to you actually and ask you to fill it in. And we're just asking people about like, what's the minimum you get paid, what's the maximum you get paid in terms of base rates at studios, how many corporates are you teaching a week, you know, what average do you charge for your corporates, what average do you charge for your privates, do you have a second income? And that's a really interesting point, because 85% of the people who filled in the survey have a second income, which means they don't feel like that they can live off just being a yoga teacher. Maybe some of that's choice, maybe yoga is the part-time job for some of them, but it's just kind of, I think it demonstrates how yoga career actually isn't that sustainable. And there's an amazing article written by a guy called Norman Blair in London, who's been teaching for 18 years, and it's just so well written. And he talks about the fact that when one of the studios he teaches at, and this is a prominent studio, I'm not going to mention it, but he actually mentions them, and their base was £30, I think, 18 years ago, and it's still the same today. Like, there's been no wage inflation. Well, yeah, prices have gone up, the price of milk has gone up, everything else has. So, and some studios are amazing, some studios do pay well, they pay fairly, but I think some do kind of take advantage of the fact that, we love what we do, we're so passionate what we do, but also the fact that there's such a supply of yoga teachers out there, that there's this fear amongst yoga teachers that if they don't say yes without neguating, that somebody else will get the job instead. So
is the Yogi Network like a trade union? So
we wanted to go down that route, yeah. So non-profit empowerment tool, but also what we hope to do and intend to do is like deliver content. So that's our aim. So, and that's what we're in the process at the moment, is that content creation stage, where we give people tips and advice on how to diversify your business, how to think about retreats, how to set them up, give people templates, and like, here's an Excel document in terms of how to think about pricing, how to think about your cost base, think things around like, tax returns, all that kind of stuff. So I'm really excited about it, because I was listening to a great podcast recently where Jay Shetty was talking about like, passion versus purpose. Yoga is 100% my passion, but I feel like this is my purpose, and it's taking my passion, which is yoga, but my background in business and finance, combining the two and hopefully giving it a tool to help people. And that's ultimately what I really want to do, is just make this a more sustainable industry, because it's like, how do you we don't get paid pensions, we don't get paid healthcare, because we're all independent contractors. We don't get paid for the 15 minutes early that we have to be there, or the half an hour that you stay after because your students want to talk to you. And what happens if you're sick? All of these things, what happens in 20 years time when maybe your body's a bit tired. And I think we haven't seen a full generation necessarily of yoga teachers kind of come through. So we don't know what it looks like when we're all 65. So it's just about telling people and making people aware that you have to think about these things. Like, it's not okay to be 40 and not have a pension. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so true. I think, just what you touched on earlier about going from full-time to part-time. I know people that are really experienced and they just teach retreats. For example, they don't really teach public classes, or they'll do just retreats and just privates, for example. And you probably pro rata, you get paid way more than you would in a public class.
Yeah.
But I think more than anything, it's about autonomy, having control, and understanding that when you're in teaching for a studio, hopefully they have the best intentions and you have a good relationship, and that's great. But for every good studio, there's going to be ones that don't give you a contract, or they are trying to basically lowball you because they know they have more teachers coming through,
Yeah.
and there's a high turnover. And I think the more independent you are, because when you do a retreat, as you did earlier this year, you did it all on your own.
Yeah.
You weren't going through a third party, and if you're doing private, it's all on your own.
Yeah.
And that is the importance
Yeah.
of building that's the community.
Yeah, so building community, building your own brand, but knowing that you are able to do these things yourself. So a lot of people would be almost maybe afraid of doing a retreat themselves because they aren't used to using Excel. They're not used to kind of like event planning. But what we want to do is hopefully kind of educate people that this is how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Do it yourself. Don't be afraid of doing it yourself.
Yeah.
And obviously at the beginning, sometimes, maybe your first one, you might break even. The next one, you might become profitable. But it's giving people the tools to build their business themselves without relying on third parties. But also, I think, I don't want to go against studios. We're not at loggerheads with, and there are many good studios, but I think it's when there's an industry rate, the studios are like, okay, we're just going to pay the industry rate. It's up to us as yoga teachers to make that industry rate grow by just asking for more, but also working together to ask for more. So, when the platform is up and running, we're going to ask teachers to make a promise that, and we can't obviously always enforce it, but to be part of this platform, you need to not work for 20 quid an hour. That's not enough to live, because you can't work 8 hours a day. You can't teach 8 hours a day. It's not like a normal job where you can kind of sit there. So, it's just, we need to be able to kind of sustain ourselves from our career. And this is, and as much as it's a passion and it is a vocation, it's still a career, and it's okay to say that, and it's okay to ask for more money. It's not you being greedy. It's you just appreciating that you need to live.
But it's the first step is to put the concept and the philosophy in people's heads, or to let them know that this is how you could approach it. But the second step is having the skill to do it.
Yeah.
Like crafting an email that you're sending to a retreat center.
Yeah.
What do you say? What do you? Is it in a certain format that will entice them to reply? Are you using leverage to negotiate? All of these things that people don't really consider. And maybe it's because they haven't done any business studies. And you hear people say, because I did business in sixth form, and business studies is very general. But life is business. I mean, relationships are interactions, and in business, those interactions are a give and take.
Yeah.
And that give and take, there's always going to be someone who benefits slightly more than the other. Or to know every time you're talking to someone, what could you do together? How could you collaborate? How could you produce something of value? Instead of just, going from class to class, and without thinking, how can I maximize what I'm offering?
Yeah, exactly.
So when you said you're going to create content, what would that look like, for example?
So it will be we're going to start with a newsletter, and this is going to be a freemium product, and it will eventually be a subscription, because we basically need a subscription just to kind of keep the platform up and running. But it will be here's why you need to have a pension. Here's how to set one up, how to think about it, how to so it will be kind of tools and steps. Some things will be templates, a letter on how to negotiate with a studio, an Excel document on how to build your retreats, that kind of thing. So it will be through kind of different social media platforms as well. So we're going to have an Instagram, we'll do the newsletter, and it will all then come up on the platform. And eventually maybe even do podcasts, because what we want to do is do interviews with experienced yoga teachers who've been around for a while, and maybe even have a mentorship program through the platform. So we have loads of big ideas, but at the moment it's just kind of getting it up and running, getting it off the ground. So the website's kind of currently being built, and then we want to do events as well. So bring people together. So it's all about community, bringing yoga teachers together. And thinking and kind of creating collaboration rather than competition, because you hear people say that all the time. Yoga community is so competitive. Yes, there's a lot of yoga teachers, but there's also a lot of studios, and I do believe that if you collaborate rather than compete with each other, then you can actually create rather than kind of always going at loggerheads, and then it becomes stressful, and then it's actually not that fun.
Yeah, I've actually this whole concept, this whole trade union is fascinating, because I was chatting to a chap called Lucas Rockwood, who he has a podcast called The Yoga Talk Show. It was one of the first kind of yoga podcasts that there ever was, and so he's from the States, but he has a studio in Barcelona, and he has actually introduced a salary for his teachers, and they get holiday, sick pay, the whole lot. And he has found that it's made them feel more secure, so they have more loyalty to him. But I don't know of anywhere else that actually does that.
I think there's a place in Edinburgh who does it.
Really?
Yeah, because one of the guys who's in my teacher training, he is part of that studio, and I think he loves it. But people want career progression. Like people, you know, it's like if you're in a normal company, you do a year with a company, then you might get you'll get a bit of a pay rise, a bit of a promotion. And actually, you know, some people I think love the freedom of being an independent contractor, but I think a lot of people do crave that kind of, and the community you get by being with kind of one place as well. And it's also the benefits are nice. Yeah, to know that you have your healthcare being paid and you have your holiday pay.
I mean, that's what keeps you in companies generally. I mean, there is a reason why Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, they feed their staff. Yeah. They all food is there on like as much you want to eat whenever you want to eat. Because what is the most nurturing thing you can do for someone is to feed them, like your mother would feed you growing up. And therefore they develop this love for the company that, because I used to play football with loads of Googlers, and they would come to training with their Google T-shirts on. Like, you're wearing your Google T-shirt to football, not even a football jersey, but you'd wear a Google T-shirt over your football jersey. And it's because I'd say to them, what do you love about Google? The food. That's the first thing they'd say.
Really?
Yeah. Because, but
it nourishes them.
It nourishes them, exactly. Yeah. So they have seen they're the biggest company in the world for a reason, or definitely most influential, because they're able to keep their staff. And I don't know what it's like to own a yoga studio. I have no clue. I'm interested to speak to more studio owners, because that's always an option. But I wonder from the studio side what it's like in terms of staff retention. Yeah. I know that I think people go to classes often because of the actual teacher, not necessarily because of the class. So what's the next step then for the Yogi Network? Yeah. What's the next step for you then?
The next step is just to kind of get the platform up and running, to launch it, to get the newsletter out, and then just to kind of start creating weekly content, and hopefully then it will spread through kind of word of mouth. Because ultimately we want to be a tool for the community, and it doesn't necessarily just need to be UK. We're obviously starting in London because that's where we're based, but Rachel's actually from the US, and we want it to be international. Yeah. So take it,
even things like Yoga Alliance. I was trying to.
There's a big debate about that right now, because what they charge for what they do is a lot. Like especially in the UK, I think it's around 100. It's over £100 in the UK. I think the US is kind of more like 60, 70. But they actually did a survey recently. And their conclusion was yoga teaching is not sustainable. People don't have enough students in classes. And I think they're going to go down one route of trying to help people get students, but it's not different. It's not kind of what we're doing. What we're doing is different. We want to be like a business tool, but also an empowering tool. And we want to effectively be like a version of a union, bring people together to actually get what they want.
Yeah. With Yoga Alliance, because I'm registering my hours because of teacher training, got to register your hours. And then I asked Adam Hazel about it, and he was saying, that you're better off to do it with the US as opposed to the UK. Yeah. So I registered with the US, my hours, and then the studio that I did my training in said that they're registered with the UK, so now I've got to switch it over and pay twice basically. But the process is so long, and I kind of think like, what do you actually provide? Is it like insurance or something? What do you get for?
They're meant to be like an accrediting body, but it's not as if anybody from the Alliance has come in and checked out our classes. And I think to get a teacher training on there as well, I think there are hurdles. You have to provide your materials and stuff, but I don't know if anyone comes and checks it, which is in theory what, it's like in school, you'd have an inspector who comes in every so often. I'm not too sure if that happens. And then as a member, I think the only reason why you really need it is if you do eventually want to teach teachers. So I actually made a decision not to sign up to the Alliance because no studio asked for it. So I have my certification. I've done my certification with schools who are with the Alliance, but I've never been a member. And if I ever do want to teach teachers, then I'll probably have to go through that long process of signing up all my hours, but I'll deal with that when it comes. But I don't see what I get for that money, so therefore I've made the decision that I don't need it, and it's never held me back in any way.
Yeah, I was the exact same. I didn't, but it's just because I have to now.
Yeah.
And that's starting in September, so I don't know how long it's going to take. But it's something that is it has to be done. But these things, there's so much to think of that you don't probably
Oh my God,
you
yeah.
realize.
So it's like starting a company. It's like a startup.
It
So
is.
like there's so many things coming at us, but it's really exciting. So my only thing at the moment is just like there's not enough time in a day.
So now at this fintech company, I
Yeah.
should have asked you, but what are you doing for them then?
So I do a kind of combination of two things. One is I kind of help write content for the newsletter, but that's kind of being fizzled out because they're hiring somebody else to do that. And then the other thing is I am in charge of kind of marketing and user growth. So weirdly, I've taken the skills I've learned since coming into yoga and now bringing them there. So I'm in the process at the moment of creating videos, which are tutorials on how to use the platform.
Like screen flow type things.
Exactly, yeah. And I'm going to actually have to be on screen for that, which I would never have done, except now I'm used to talking into my phone because of Instagram. So it's funny how that's kind of helped. And also just client meetings. So a lot of my old client base are the users of this platform. So it's kind of just basically going back out and meeting them again and saying hi. And I guess in a way it is selling, but it's a free platform for them to use. So it doesn't feel like selling in the way I used to sell when I was in the city, where there's like big amounts of money involved and it was much more transactional. Now it's more like, this is a product. Here's why it's really helpful for people what you do. It's free for you to use. So it's actually quite nice to meet these people in a very different capacity to what I used to, because I used to be the person servicing them. I'm not really servicing them anymore. I'm just kind of informing them about this product.
Yeah, because I've done that as well with using ScreenFlow. I worked for an AI company, so I would do like a product demonstration. I show you like how to click through for using the product, and there would be a little box in the corner which had my face on it, like as me doing the video. So it's probably similar to that, is it? And the thing about that is that although people don't like to use the word selling is like really important. I mean, you're demonstrating something there the same way you demonstrate a pose. You're taking people through things in a clear way. And what you've said about like teaching, working 2 days a week, it's funny because I've been so adamant that I am never going to go back to office jobs. I'm going to do this 100%. I've never actually thought, could I go back and do 1-2 days a week in something else? And why would that be a bad thing? Maybe it'd be a good thing, because if you are working, I think the days of doing one job for 40 years, they're gone, completely gone.
Yeah.
I think the key in the modern world now is to be versatile, is to know how to do everything, as you said. To know how to do your accounts, to do your marketing, to do your I don't know.
Because with technology, you can be really self-sufficient. Like, I made flyers recently for my...
You made flowers?
Flyers.
Oh, okay, flyers, yeah, sorry.
For my retreat, which I never thought I'd do because I'm not a graphic designer, but there's a great website called Canva, and it turns out you can use that really easily. So there's so much you can do yourself. It's just about actually putting some time into it and finding the tools that allow you to do it. But I do actually like the balance. And as I say, some weeks I'm like so into yoga that I'm like, oh God, I wish I didn't have to do that this week. But like majority of the time, I'm happy with the balance.
Yeah. And your website is very nice, by the way. Did you do that?
I did that myself. Yeah.
There you go. I mean, Squarespace.
Squarespace is amazing.
It's amazing. I know. And I looked at your website. I was like, ooh, it's one of those. What do you call that? Like a scrolly. It's like it kind of, when you scroll. What's that?
I don't know, actually.
It looks really nice though. I don't know what it's called, but it makes such a difference, because I know you don't need a website. Don't get me wrong, but if you want to take payments, if you want to do newsletter, you got to have a website.
But it's amazing how I get emails through my website now for privates. It really accelerated literally only in the past month, where people I don't even know, or maybe they've come to my classes but they haven't kind of made themselves aware to me, but then they message me, and you can see, because it comes through through Squarespace, and you can see that it's come from my website, and they've gone into like a contact now. So it is powerful, because some people aren't on Instagram, and they're never going to be on Instagram. So you have a couple who are in their kind of mid to late 40s who want to try and do a bit of yoga, and they've come through to me via my website. So it is important, I think, to have every channel.
Plus, as well, Right. The content or the communication style has to match the medium. So, for example, you wouldn't sign language on a phone call. You would do that if you could on a Skype call. The same way is that if you do a lot of writing, a lot of long form content, that is suitable for a website. It's not suitable for Instagram.
No way, yeah.
I don't understand why people do like stories and just loads of this tiny little writing. Am I supposed to hold my thumb down and wait and ache? My thumb starts aching reading this tiny little writing. Put that in a blog and put it on your website. Yeah,
because people actually don't have attention span with stories. That's why they're on stories. It's because they're flicking. Yeah.
They've only got 15 seconds.
It's like the new age flicking the channels.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's fine. I think all mediums are value, but to use the medium correctly.
Yeah.
Like, for example, with me and you are speaking now, the person listening to this is probably doing the dishes.
Yeah.
Maybe they're in the bath. I don't know. They might be driving their car, but they're sure as hell not just sitting in a corner listening to a podcast. No one really does that. So I understand that I don't my stuff doesn't have to be all like very like full of knowledge bombs. It's just like a chat. It's something you listen to. A podcast is like something you listen to in the background.
Yeah, you almost don't want it to be too dense because then the person's like, oh God, I have to rewind it again. I feel like
yeah, no fear of me dropping too much knowledge anyway. But with websites, Squarespace, you have Wix as well. And for what I've decided to do is, say if I have a workshop obviously in a studio, I will put the event on my website and then I'll allow the person to contact me and ask any questions that they have, because sometimes the Mind Body app can be tricky to use, especially if you're doing it on desktop. It asks you to log in again. So I say to the people, you can look at the event on my website, or it's available on Mind Body, but you can contact me if you need to.
Yes.
And therefore, because with workshops, like handstands, people will email me saying, hi, I want to come to your workshop, but I can't handstand. I'm like, great, you don't need to handstand.
Yeah.
And then I've made contact, and once I've had contact with them, answered any questions they have, then they're like, okay, now I can go on Mind Body. I've spoken to the guy.
Yeah.
But
so I've never actually used Mind Body.
Dun, dun, dun.
I know.
What do you mean?
Well, so like the studios I'm at, I've probably like some of them use Mind Body, some of them don't. Like Another Space doesn't use Mind Body. Cycle doesn't use Mind Body. Utopia does use Mind Body. Because some studios in the UK have just taken the decision, we're not using it because we don't want to pay any of our margin away. We want people to come onto our platform. So
they make bookings on the actual Cycle website?
Yeah, so Cycle has their own website, and Another Space have their own booking platforms on their website. And then when I have chosen to rent spaces in the past, I've only marketed it through Instagram, and then people book and send me money into my account, and that's the way I've done it, just to kind of avoid the admin. Mind Body is a great tool. I've just chosen not to go down that route because I've heard it's like, I know one of my friends owns a studio and they've had to get like Mind Body specialists to come in and teach them how to use it properly. So I think it can be complex.
It's temperamental. It's when it works well, it works really well. But sometimes on the desktop version, like I said, it's and the thing is, right, what you have to understand, and I learnt this from working in technology companies, is when someone has a moment of I want this, I want the workshop, I want the retreat. The more clicks it takes for them to get what they want, the less likely they are to go through with it.
My friend said some stat like you lose 10% of people every click or something. I don't know if that's true. But
I'd believe that. I mean, look at Amazon. They have a buy now button. So the way we think is changing. Where we think far quicker. Or the downside is we can't concentrate as well. But if I look at my phone, I say, like, I bought a fan the other day because it's going to get hot in the summer. I clicked on fan, and then I was like, the buy now button. And then when the buy now button wasn't there, or I had to add it to my basket, and I was like, oh, this is bullshit, man. I can't just do 2 clicks.
Yeah.
I've got so used to like just 2 clicks. But the thing is, it's the experience there. Like, if someone is coming on my website, I want them to know that I've painstakingly put myself in their shoes, and I've understood that they see my workshop and I want to make it as easy for them as possible with no stress. Can I get the information I need or book if I need to? And that, what you would call user experience in the tech world, is is the experience they have of you to show that you've considered their experience.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if my UX is the best because it basically to book a retreat.
UX means you're experienced, by the way, guys. We're getting real technical now. Go on.
Because to book my retreat, like you press the book now, but you basically email me and then I start up a conversation because invariably people, when it comes to retreats, people have questions and stuff. And I do it all account based, so I don't use a payments company, not yet. If my retreats grow and I do multiple a year and maybe even facilitate retreats for others, then that would probably change. But for now, it's just account to account rather than a payments company.
Much better, because a heads up to the yoga teachers out there, just because you can do something that's kind of fancy or sophisticated doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
Yes. So, for example, this podcast, even I have it all, like, you know, I have the intro, the little snippet, and it's all quite complex, and I am decided that I'm going to simplify it, even though I've learned how to do it in a really fancy way, basically copying the Rich Roll podcast, their format. I'm going to simplify it and just have like my 3 sponsors, little intro of the guest, music, podcast, not all this other stuff. And the same way with taking payments. PayPal charge like 2%, Stripe, all these different things.
Stripe or even more, because that's what we're looking into for the Yogi Network. And accepting payments is expensive. Do account to account. Yeah, people don't mind it. You might have to like reassure them that you're not going to run away. Because I had that. So people are like, there was 2 people who came to Thailand and we didn't know them. They're like, how can I trust to give you my money? I'm like, well, if I stole your money, that like I would be destroyed. So I'm not going to do that. And you can find me.
Exactly, you can find me. But also, as you said there, it's what people are buying. If I'm buying a plastic fan for plastic. So I know it's not sustainable, but if I'm buying a wooden fan from Amazon, it's a product. It's whatever. I don't have any questions. Is it rated high? A retreat is different. People, it's more emotionally involved. They want to ask questions. So that's different. I'm conscious that we're kind of running short on time, and I'll take you to Yoga Hub. You've got your Rocket Workshop. Yeah. And
then back bends.
And then tomorrow.
It's just 2 today, so I'm actually flying back to London tonight. So Sunday, Sunday's my busiest day in London, and I don't like being gone too often. So I teach 3 classes on a Sunday. So I'm just here for a flying visit, which is nice. But it's nice because I'm doing Rocket first, and then I'm doing back bends. But what I'm doing with the back bends is I'm combining mandala, which is a training that I just did in India. And do you know what a mandala is? Mandala is where you go 360 degrees. Yeah. And the training that I did was with the yoga people, and what they do is they combine like a mandala type flow with the elements. So air is back bends. So we're going to do an air mandala to warm people up and get their back kind of open and strong and stuff before we kind of do more of a workshop-y kind of stuff for them. And
I like even the novelty of that, because the people at the front of the class are then suddenly at the back of the class. It's like
it does, and it messes with people's perspectives a little bit. And the fact that it's not linear as well, and it's one breath, one movement, means that like you've no room for the mind to wander, and it's very breath focused. So it forces people to be present, but to be present in their breath as well as the movement.
Nice. I wanted to ask you about India, Bagoa, but
We've got a few minutes, don't we?
Are you sure? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll go. It's 20 minutes to get there. So, what was Goa like? I've been to Goa. Yeah. But go on.
Goa is a really special place for me. It was where I did my 200 hour, or I did half of my 200 hour there, and then I went back to do another 100 hours. So, and actually I've been there 3 times. It's also where I did like one of my first ever yoga retreats. It's a beautiful place. It's really.
It's paradise.
It's paradise, yeah, but it's still like it hasn't been, or at least where I've gone, it hasn't been really built up. Beaches are gorgeous, but the people who came to India were incredible. So mandala can often be seen as a bit of a feminine type practice because it's quite flowy, it's a bit dance-like.
There was I don't think there was one man at your thing, was there?
Well, there was one guy, and he lasted a day.
And no!
He had an
let me just shout out to my fallen brother. Gone but not forgotten. Why did he go?
Well, so he said he had an injury or something because he had been traveling for quite some time, and I think he got an infection or something. So he kind of just disappeared, and we all were like, "Where did he go?" But it was 39 women, and
Jesus,
which is a lot, but it was a really beautiful experience. I've made lifelong friends, because sometimes you put that many women together and it can be bitchy, but it wasn't at all. Everyone was so supportive. And and loads of them are London based as well. So it's quite nice to have made a lot of new friends who are in the yoga world who live like, 10, 15 minutes away.
Yeah.
But it was I found quite a healing process for me as well. Because through the transition from finance into yoga, I did lose friends that I never thought I'd lose. Just people who I thought would be there for me and then weren't. So and girls, as I say, can be a bit bitchy sometimes. So spending that much time with women in such close quarters and just coming away feeling so supported, so nourished. It was really, really good for me.
But that is I don't know how true it is, but that women are quite competitive with each other, whereas men are more supportive. I don't know if that's a social construct or if that's more a kind of like a genetic thing or whatever. But I do know that men have, typically speaking, football teams, more like team activities, and women don't have that option as much. So I think that sounds fantastic.
It was really wonderful, actually. And it was a big group, and I think it was the biggest group that the yoga people have ever taught. So they were a little bit nervous going into it, and then they sent us an email after to say how special the group was actually, and the energy that we created, was something that they hadn't seen before. So I think we were really lucky to be part of something so beautiful, because it's a really intense course as well. You get up and you do. So the way mandala works is you start with the yin to prepare the body for what you're about to do, and you end with yin. So it's a 2-hour yoga practice with probably kind of 90 minutes of like dynamic. And then we did shamanism was a big part of the course as well. So we had breakfast for an hour, then we went back in and we did mandala theory, but then we would do an hour of shamanic dancing. So that was like a HIIT class. It was so intense. We were like jumping around the place. Then we had break, went back and did shamanic theory, and then we did mandala again in the evening. And then we did sweat lodges on top of that. Sweat lodges really...
Sweat lodges?
Yeah, so it's like... you can't see my gesture, but it's about a tent that was maybe kind of halfway up my torso, so it was like quite small. It was on the beach. It was
a tent that is halfway up your torso, so like 3 foot high.
Yeah, good description.
No, I'm just saying. How do you get in the tent?
It was 3 or 4, so you had to crawl into the tent. There was like a pit in the middle, and we had that 3 times where they would light a fire maybe 3 hours before the sweat lodge. Put I don't know how many stones. I think it was 7 per. So they split the sweat lodge into 4, 1 per element. So the first, so it's like we're there for like 90 minutes, and divided into 4. So what they would do is bring in a quarter of the stones, bring a big bucket of water. You'd be in there in complete darkness, 45 of us, and then they would pour the water over the stones, and it would be steam. It was hot. We would be chanting. And then, so we did that kind of 4 times over, and they would open the door in between. But depending on where you were in the sweat lodge, you either got a bit of a draft or you didn't. The first time I did it, I got no draft, and that I felt by the end of it, I was getting a bit like, get me out of here.
It's like an incredibly intense sauna in the dark.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great. Yeah, exactly. And on sand, you're all huddled. It was. I don't know if
you don't want to be claustrophobic.
I think I am a little bit, actually, and it's something I was when I was a kid. Didn't realize I still, and actually that's one thing they talk about. Like these sweat lodges, they often bring up things from your childhood and stuff, and that was the thing that it brought up for me. I was like, oh my god, I am actually still a bit claustrophobic. Yeah. So for the next 2, I just sat near the door, so it made sure I got a bit of air when the door opened. But again, actually, the funny thing about that, it was a really bonding experience, because we all came out of the first one and we were like, that was awful, and like just giving each other hugs, and it was something that actually brought us together. So no
wonder that geezer left after he legged it after a day. No, that sounds intense though, but then that is what brings people together.
It is. Those hardships.
There's hardships. I'm paying for this, what the hell. I could chat to you forever, but unfortunately you got to go. So people, so the Pyrenees is next for you, is that fair to say?
Yeah, in June.
And if people want to know more info, where do they go?
Groganyoga.com or I guess Yogi Grogi on Instagram.
Yeah, okay, cool. And you can look at Sarah's lovely website. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Boom, 3 in the bag for Sarah. 3 podcasts, that is, with myself. Hopefully a 4th again before the year is out. I hope you really enjoyed that. As always, this podcast is made possible by our sponsors, that's supporters. That's Apparel, These are fellas that and ladies that produce clothing for men that I wear myself, and I wear it all the time. Because when you buy stuff of quality, it lasts. So if you'd like to get some clothing that's going to help you to move on or off the mat, that believes in using sustainable recycled fabrics and even recycled paper for their packaging, visit om.com/hashtag TYLP. And if you put in the promo code Kevin, you'll get 15% off at checkout. That's all your garms. They've got the spring selection out now. Have a browse. It's tastefully done. And let them know I sent you. I do get a commission off that. Thank you. But who I don't get a commission off is Small Changes. They are still a sponsor, no less. They are a small organic whole food store based here in Dublin. And I know the owner well. He's a great guy. They are doing really good things for the planet, for the environment, for the community as well. If you go to smallchanges.ie, you can check them out. If you live in Dublin, Drumcondra or Glasnevin, around the area, or you're visiting Dublin, go and have a look. Tell them Kev sent you, just to say hello and speak to an actual person. Yes, so check them out, smallchanges.ie. Thank you so much for listening, as always. And before I forget, if you're around May 25th in the Dublin area, come to my handstand workshop. Why not? Well, not why not, more so why. And here's why. Because you'll begin to understand the principles of doing a handstand, which can be quite fun. It's half full, not half empty, but half full. And if you go on to kevinboyleyoga.ie, you can find out more information there. Get in touch with me and I'll help you book your place or answer any questions that you have. That's it. I'm done. Be good, look after yourself, keep in touch, share this on social media with your peeps, and chat to you soon. Bye.